Hello, my name is Anna Woodhoo and I'm a member of the family team at Thompson Snell and Passmore. I'm again joined by Harry Golding and Kirstie Law, also from the family team. If you joined us last time, you'll remember we were talking about the law in relation to cohabiting couples. We looked at what a couple might put in place if they choose to move in with one another, and also the more limited rights available to unmarried couples on separation. With that in mind, and considering the increasing number of couples who are living together but who aren't married or in a civil partnership, is the current law fit for purpose, Harry? Is reform on the horizon?
Sure. So I think that it's not just that they're increasing, but it's the speed at which they are also increasing. This has it's the fastest growing sort of family type in the country. I think that it is becoming a bit of a hot topic for policymakers, certainly for family lawyers. That the previous sort of fix all of having a marriage and you unpick the finances at the end if the parties separate, that's not there anymore. And there's very little, we're sort of using a cobbled together bits of legislation to try to find some remedy for separating cohabiting parties. But I think that there is a lot of calls around the country, both from family lawyers, other family practitioners, some policymakers and bodies, for this to be looked at in depth and for there to actually be a structured way of dealing with some sort of rights that are going to be protected for cohabiting couples. Problem is, as with all things, it's going to take time to get there. And at the moment, you can't rely on that changing in the near future. The calls have been around for a long time. I think that I certainly remember even when I was training, people were talking about the law in relation to cohabiting parties being updated, and we're still not there yet. So I think that for now, the best advice is to take advice early, get a declaration of trust or a cohabitation agreement, and then at least you're protected for now, depending on when the law is going to change.
And so watch this space, really. So talking about the here and now then, if somebody was entering into a cohabiting relationship or was on the brink of or already going through a separation, how might they look to resolve some of the issues that arise, be it in relation to the children or the financial matters? Presumably court is a last resort.
Very much a last resort. The court system, like many public services at the moment, is really struggling on the financial front, and you have long delays and huge costs associated with going to court. You can pay for people to represent you at a hearing only to find it's pulled with less than 24 hours notice, and by that point you've paid the fees. So we would really urge people to look at the alternatives to court. You have mediation, where the couple sit with a qualified mediator and talk through the options, whether that's how the children will spend their time. And then with children, some mediators are actually qualified to see the children, so their views and wishes and feelings can be ascertained, which can be very helpful in cases where the children are tending to say one thing to one parent to please and another to another. So mediation is probably the cheapest way of resolving out of court if you can't sit around the table and do it just the two of you. There is also collaborative law, where both parties appoint a collaborative lawyer, and collaborative lawyers commit to resolving cases out of court. A traditional collaborative agreement specifically signed by the lawyers and the couple will say we won't go to court, the four of us. If it goes wrong, the couple would have to appoint new lawyers, which gives a real incentive to try to reach a settlement round the table and avoid the costs of pulling out and having to start again. And because you're doing it with your lawyer, if you're not feeling particularly confident, you don't feel you can put your arguments well, you can talk to the lawyer and then ask the lawyer to explain your position round the table, and it avoids the toing and froing and letters and people taking offence from language, because everyone's there and can explain how they're feeling immediately. There's also a process called arbitration, where the best analogy is that's privatising the court system. Very often an arbitrator will be a judge who also works in the public law system and is trained on how to give a judgment, and they will hear the evidence from the couple on the day and then give a judgment in the same way as if they were sitting in the public court. Although you pay for the arbitrator, sometimes it actually works out cheaper in the long term, because you don't risk the adjourned hearings, the judge not having enough time to deal with it and saying come back another time. So it's not necessarily just for people that are wealthy. It can actually work for people who look at the cost benefit analysis to getting it resolved quickly and with certainty, because the arbitrator will deal with your case. By contrast, in the public court system, if there is a public law emergency case, a child needing to be taken into care, the judge will have to prioritise that. So a bit like with hospital waiting lists, you can get bumped. So I would very much encourage people to look at, there are so many alternatives to court. I've mentioned 3. There's also having an early neutral evaluation where a lawyer will give you a view as to what is likely to happen if it's going to go to court in their opinion. And it is worth, if you can't negotiate directly, the 4 of you, bringing in a 5th person that can either be a mediator or it can be a more judicial type role. So we would very much say to people, think about the cost benefit and the advantage of not having the delay that the court process entails. It really is worth looking at the alternatives to court.
So lots of other options
Yeah.
for people to consider, and an alternative way forward, let's say.
Yes.
So thank you both to Harry and to Kirstie today. If you've got any questions or you'd like to find out more information, then you can contact any one of us or any member of the family team at Thompson, Snell and Passmore. We'd be happy to talk things through with you and answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.